Imagine sitting at a desk while your teacher is going over a math lesson, but you just can't seem to focus because your feet won't stop wiggling and that boy across the room won't stop tapping his pen on his desk. You know you've been falling behind at school, but there's nothing you can do about it. This is what life is like for a kid with ADHD. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, approximately 11% of children ages 4 to 17 have been diagnosed with some form of ADHD as of 2011. That's 6.4 million people. Today I'm speaking about the impact of ADHD, or attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, on the youth of the world, but more significantly America. This disorder has become a hot topic in recent times, and it's important to fully understand the symptoms and treatments in order to have an educated opinion on the subject. I have a special place in my heart for kids with ADHD, as I want to work with kids with ADHD in an occupational therapy setting when I graduate from college. My passion has led me to hundreds of journals and articles about the disorder and the impact it's making on the world today. I want all of you to walk away from this speech understanding what ADHD is, how complex the diagnosis process is, the different treatments recommended for kids, and how it's affecting children today. It's important for everyone to realize that these children aren't just wiggly, but kids whose brains work in different but amazing ways. So, what is ADHD? ADHD is a disorder where the kids with ADHD can't really focus and function in normal settings because of their attention span and hyperactivity. ADHD is a neurobehavioral disorder, and it's commonly diagnosed in childhood. 11% of American school kids have ADHD. So in retrospect to a normal class size of 30, at least 3 kids will be diagnosed with ADHD. The more severe the ADHD is, the earlier the diagnosis. Because according to the CDC, parents are more likely to take their child to go get a diagnosis for ADHD than, say, a teacher or another adult, because if it's severe enough, they're going to notice it before they even reach kindergarten. So there are diagnoses of ADHD by the age of 5. The difference between a wiggly kid and a kid with ADHD is quite significant. Energetic kids are just energetic, and kids with ADHD truly struggle to function and thrive in a normal setting. To be diagnosed, you have to be evaluated by a doctor or a psychiatrist, and sometimes both, and must have at least 6 symptoms that have been prevalent for at least 6 consecutive months. Some of these symptoms include not paying attention to small details, careless mistakes, don't listen if they're directly spoken to, or have trouble organizing things. So a lot of times if you see a kid with a super messy desk that just can't seem to get it together, it could be because they have ADHD. I have a really close friend who was diagnosed with ADHD, and I asked him about the process of how it happens, and he said that they put you in an unfamiliar room and you are just kind of pushed to your limits. They do a bunch of different tasks for you, and it's a really grueling process, and it takes a long set of time simply because they want to diagnose the people with actual diagnosis of ADHD. The one thing about ADHD is because they were evaluated, there's no one way to diagnose someone. So it could be possible that you go to one doctor and they give you a diagnosis, and you go to another and they'll give you another. But the symptoms that are shown and how serious they are and how they affect the ability to function is how you are going to diagnose somebody with ADHD. So there are a bunch of different treatments for ADHD, and it's really important to understand that ADHD is a disorder, not a disease, so it can't be cured, only treated. There are various treatments like meds or therapy that have pros and cons for each of them. Behavioral therapy doesn't affect core symptoms like hyperactivity and not being able to focus, but it teaches them how to control it. The one thing with therapy is that a child really has to want to change, and they really have to work for it. So there's a couple different kinds of therapy. One is family-based therapy, where parents will go in with their kids or maybe they're siblings and they all work together to improve the life for all of them. And there's also educational-based therapy, and this is what a lot of kids who really struggle in school to go, and they'll they'll learn different ways to be able to work more efficiently in a classroom. So they'll be able to function and take notes and do well in school. So a big thing with ADHD is a lot of kids are medicated. According to the CDC, 2/3 of kids with diagnosed ADHD are medicated. There are two types of meds. There are stimulants and non-stimulants. You're more commonly going to hear about stimulants, such as Adderall and Ritalin. They have a 70 to 80% success rate, and that's what a lot of the conversation is about these drugs. And then there's also non-stimulants, which are long-lasting, so they can last up to 24 hours. And they were just approved in 2003, which means that they're super new to the medical field. The thing with meds is that they're super effective and super efficient, but they're not a long-term solution. A lot of people do a combination therapy, so they'll do therapy and medications in hopes that they'll be able to know how to deal with it, but still not be completely on their own. If you rely just on medications, a lot of times parents are hoping their child grows out of ADHD, which does happen a fair amount, but it's not guaranteed, and a lot of people have attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder follow them into adulthood. One big downfall of medication is how much controversy is around it. As a college student, I know how prevalent the abuse of Adderall and Ritalin are, especially during finals week. And I know there's just been a lot of talk about how beneficial it actually is, but I think it's really important to understand that these medications help so many kids, 2/3 of 6.4 million kids, be able to function and thrive and live a normal lifestyle. Like I said before, meds are great on their own, therapy's great on their own, but they work way better together. And so the last thing I want to talk about is why children with ADHD are absolutely incredible and are just need more recognition in the world because their brains just work differently than other people's. A lot of times ADHD kids are labeled as bad kids in the classroom simply because they can't focus and they're falling behind and don't seem like they really care in school. And recently, why ADHD has become kind of a hot topic is because of the increase in diagnosis. And in all honesty, ADHD has been as prevalent as ever. It's just now we're diagnosing kids. But this increase has kind of given it a negative stigma simply because people are now blaming any kid that doesn't pay attention. Like, oh, they're just ADHD, which is not true. Like I said before, energetic kids are labeled as ADHD, and it's a very negative, kind of shameful thing. And so kids who are actually diagnosed with ADHD are kind of shamed for it instead of being encouraged and supported and constantly encouraged to work on themselves but still be themselves and not have to change who they are just because their brain doesn't work like everyone else's. A big thing with kids with ADHD is that they have trouble communicating simply because their brain can't function in a way that they can organize sentences. So carrying on long conversations can be really difficult for them because they just want to blurt out the first thing that comes into their mind, which they do, and it becomes really difficult for people to still socialize with them. And so this really affects a lot of kids that people or parents or adults get fed up with their behavior, and so they kind of isolate them out of conversations. And these tendencies kind of affect the kids, making them feel like they're unwanted or unheard. And so being able to understand and empathize with these kids will allow them to grow and love themselves, but also benefit their mental health. Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder is very prevalent in America, in American culture, especially in the youth. It's important to understand this disorder and all it entails. I hope this speech gave you a more educated opinion on this disorder and you were able to empathize with these children's struggles and triumphs. With your new knowledge of the general symptoms of the disorder, the different options of treatments, and the value of these kids despite behaviors that are less than desirable. Now you know what it's like for 6.4 million kids in America that struggle with this disorder that is very difficult but also very interesting. Thank you.